I think what makes a prank dangerous isn't the prank itself. It's the assumption that you know exactly how it's going to end. Hello guys, my name is Timothy, and today I'm going through such cases. From two guys who flipped their buddy's breaker for a laugh, to a guy who brought a spice rack ingredient to a party that would leave his victim's organs shutting down one by one. It was January 14th, 2018, Reno, Nevada. Not the Strip, not the casinos, just a quiet residential block with an aging 3-story brick apartment building. The kind of place where the hallways always smell like someone's cooking and the walls are thin enough to hear your neighbor's TV. Outside it was 28 degrees Fahrenheit and dropping, and most people were already settled in for the night. Declan Forsyth worked as a line cook downtown, 9 hours on his feet in a hot kitchen on a Sunday. He was 27 and not the going out type on weeknights. He'd come home, eat something easy, crack open a beer, and decompress on the couch like clockwork. Two of his closest friends lived in the same building, same floor actually, and the three of them had a running history of pranking each other. Nothing serious. Just the kind of dumb, low-effort stuff guys do when they've known each other too long and have too much time on their hands. Older buildings like this have a setup that not a lot of people know about. The breaker boxes aren't always inside the individual units. In a lot of these older builds, they're out in a shared hallway utility closet. And in this building, that closet was never locked, which in a building full of guys with too much time and too many beers is kind of a problem. By 9:30 that night, his two friends had been drinking since early afternoon and landed on the idea of flipping the breaker on Declan's unit. This was the plan. Kill the power. Wait for him to stumble into the hallway, confused and annoyed, get a laugh, flip it back on. Done. And so they did, and waited. A few minutes passed, but there was no reaction or noise from inside. They thought he'd already gone to bed or just didn't care enough to come out. So they went back to their unit and kept drinking, which at first sounded to me like a silly prank fail imaginable. Except they forgot one thing. They never flipped it back on. Just as they thought, Declan was already half asleep on the couch when the power cut. It barely registered. He fumbled around in the dark, found an old pillar candle on the kitchen counter, lit it, set it on the coffee table about a foot from the couch, and lay back down. He was out within minutes. His apartment was on the second floor, single entry with one door, no balcony. The windows were old crank style, painted over at the frames, the kind that take real effort to open even when you're fully alert. That matters because what happened next didn't give him any time to reach them. Somewhere between 11 p.m. and midnight, the candle flame reached a stack of takeout menus and a dish towel sitting near the base of the coffee table. The couch was cheap synthetic upholstery, the kind that doesn't just burn. It off-gases almost immediately. Carbon monoxide and hydrogen cyanide build fast in a sealed space that size. At those concentrations, you're looking at unconsciousness in under 3 minutes. Declan was already deeply asleep. He never registered any of it. The fire burned itself out before morning, ran out of oxygen in the sealed apartment. Nobody in the building noticed anything that night. It wasn't until the next morning that a maintenance worker noticed dark staining around the bottom of the doorframe of Unit 2B. He knocked, but no answer. He opened it with his master key. The living room was gutted. Declan was still on the couch in the exact position he'd fallen asleep in. The power was still off. Declan was pronounced dead at the scene. There were no signs of struggle and no indication he ever woke up. Investigators quickly focused on the power outage. Both friends admitted to flipping the breaker as part of a prank, and phone records along with neighbor accounts confirmed the timeline. The breaker for Unit 2B was still in the off position when the scene was processed, supporting the sequence of events. They were formally charged with criminally negligent conduct resulting in death. The case centered on whether their actions directly created the conditions that led to the fire. The final outcome of the case was not publicly detailed. Poor Declan. Honestly, the most harmless thing in the world, and it still killed him. Next one I'm covering takes place in broad daylight, in front of witnesses, and it starts with a fake lottery ticket. It was August 3rd, 2013. Hargrove County, Alabama, small, rural, the kind of place where the roads turn to gravel before you even realize you've left the main highway. The trailer park sat about 2 miles off the road, maybe 40 units crammed into a flat, dusty lot with chain-link fencing around the edges. It was a Saturday afternoon, 94 degrees Fahrenheit, and nobody was going anywhere. The guy in the single wide at the back of the lot was named Mervyn Speck, 44, quiet, and had been out of work since early spring. He's behind on rent, behind on everything really, and that kind of pressure had just been sitting on him for months. People who knew him said he was mostly quiet, but didn't take well to being pushed. He'd been living alone in a single wide at the back of the lot for close to 6 years. One unit over was Cody Raines, 26, never without his phone out, always looking for a reaction and way too confident with his own humor. He and Mervyn weren't close, but they knew each other the way you know someone when you've shared a fence line long enough. So Cody gets his hands on a fake scratch-off lottery ticket. Not just any fake, the kind you can actually order online that's designed to look exactly like a real one, printed to read as a $500,000 winner when scratched. And he decides the move is to hand it to Mervyn, finds him outside that afternoon, tells him he found it near the front office and figured he could use the luck. Casual, no big setup, just hands it over. Mervyn scratches it right there, and it reads as a winner. I mean, $500,000. This is a man who can't make rent, hasn't had a real paycheck in 7 months. And for about 30 seconds, he's holding what looks like the answer to every single problem he has. His hands were shaking. He read it again. Cody was already trying not to laugh. Then he told him it was fake. Phone already out, already recording, laughing right in his face. That's not a prank at that point. That's just mean. Mervyn didn't react the way Cody expected at all. His expression just emptied out. Not angry, not upset, just gone. He looked at the ticket, then at Cody, set the ticket down on the step beside him, and walked inside without a word. And Cody, he kept filming and laughing like he just did the funniest thing ever. Neighbors who'd been watching drifted off. Everyone figured that was the end of it. Mervyn came back out less than 2 minutes later. He walked straight at Cody. Cody still had his phone up, still smiling. It went from 0 to over in about 3 seconds. He pulled a folding knife and drove it straight into Cody's upper abdomen. Cody dropped. Mervyn let the knife fall right there, walked back to his trailer, and went inside. A woman 2 units over called for help immediately. Responders took about 16 minutes since the nearest station was far out and the gravel road slowed things down. By the time they got there, Cody was already unconscious. A stab wound to the hepatic artery bleeds fast. We're talking minutes before the pressure drops too far to recover from. Cody was pronounced dead at the scene. Single stab wound to the upper abdomen, hepatic artery laceration, rapid internal hemorrhage. Gone before anyone could do anything about it. Mervyn was still inside his trailer when responders arrived. Didn't resist. The knife was right where he'd dropped it. Cody's phone was recovered from the ground. It had captured the entire confrontation on video, start to finish. The fake lottery ticket was sitting on the step where Mervyn had left it. The case was ruled a homicide, and Mervyn was charged with second-degree murder. The prosecution relied primarily on the recorded footage and his admission at the scene. The phone footage was entered as the primary evidence. Honestly, there wasn't much else needed. The whole thing was right there on the screen. The thing about pranking someone at their lowest point is you have no idea what you're walking into. Speaking of which, October 2014, Ebola panic was at its worst, and I kid you not, someone actually thought it was a good idea to yell about it on a plane full of people. It was October 19, 2014. The flight had taken off from a mid-sized regional airport in Ohio, bound for Charlotte, North Carolina, a routine commuter route, maybe an hour and 20 minutes in the air on a good day. The plane was full, or close to it. Window seats taken, middle seats taken. The kind of flight where you're basically shoulder to shoulder with a stranger for the whole thing. It was a Monday morning. Vivian Harmon was 63, retired school teacher, 31 years in the classroom before she finally called it. She was flying alone to visit her daughter and 2 grandkids, a trip she'd been looking forward to for weeks. She had a known heart condition, had been managing it with medication for about 4 years, and had a pacemaker fitted the previous spring. She wasn't in poor health by any means. She was rather active. She traveled and managed it well. Now, October 2014. If you remember what that month felt like, Ebola was everywhere. Every headline, every news ticker, every conversation. The first case on U.S. soil had been confirmed just weeks earlier, and the public fear around it was genuinely out of control. People were scared in a way that wasn't entirely rational, but also wasn't entirely without reason. It was the kind of climate where just hearing the word in the wrong context made people's skin crawl. The flight had been in the air for about 40 minutes, cruising altitude, everything normal. Vivian was in a window seat toward the middle of the cabin. She wasn't a nervous flyer exactly, but she wasn't entirely comfortable either. She'd mentioned to her daughter before boarding that smaller commuter planes always made her a little anxious. She had her book open. She was managing fine. A 24-year-old man seated a few rows ahead, traveling alone, had been restless and loud since before takeoff, the kind of passenger flight attendants clock immediately, stood up from his seat mid-flight for no apparent reason. A few people looked over. Then he announced, loud enough for the entire cabin to hear, that he'd just returned from West Africa and wasn't feeling well, that he thought he might have Ebola. In that cabin, in that climate, saying that out loud was like pulling a pin. The cabin went from quiet to chaos in about 10 seconds. People were standing, some pushing toward the back, voices overlapping, a few people crying. Flight attendants were trying to get everyone seated and couldn't. The pilot came over the intercom almost immediately, but the cabin was already gone by then. Witnesses described the noise as overwhelming, the kind of panic that feeds itself once it starts. Vivian's seatmate said she grabbed his arm the moment the man stood up. By the time the shouting started, she had gone pale and was pressing her hand flat against her chest. He asked if she was okay. She didn't respond. Within about 90 seconds of the outburst, she was unresponsive, head back against the seat, completely still. Her pacemaker data later confirmed a sudden cardiac event at almost the exact minute the disruption began. The stress response had triggered an acute myocardial infarction, and her heart couldn't sustain it. It's worth knowing that emotional and psychological shock can absolutely cause a fatal cardiac event in someone with a compromised cardiovascular system. It's documented, it's real, and it doesn't take much when the heart is already working around a weakness. The pilot diverted and declared an emergency. They were on the ground roughly 20 minutes later at the nearest suitable airport. The man who caused the panic had no illness at all, not Ebola, not anything. He was detained on the tarmac immediately. Responders reached Vivian within minutes of landing, but there was nothing to be done. She had been unresponsive for most of the descent. Vivian Harmon was pronounced dead shortly after landing. The cause was an acute myocardial infarction triggered by sudden psychological stress, with pacemaker data placing the event within seconds of the disruption and confirming her seatmate's account. The 24-year-old was charged with criminal negligence resulting in death and public endangerment. He stated he believed it would be taken as a joke and did not expect the reaction it caused. The flight manifest, crew statements, and recorded data formed the core of the case. He was later convicted and sentenced to several years in prison, with the court citing the panic he caused as a direct contributing factor in the death. A grandmother who spent 30 years in a classroom, that's who paid for that joke. And this one, a subway platform, a group of guys with a Vine camera, and a young woman who has no idea she's already been chosen. It was March 6th, 2015. New York City, one of the busiest subway systems in the world, and on a Friday evening, it shows. The platform was the kind of crowded where you're standing close enough to feel the person next to you shift their weight. Rush hour was winding down, but not gone. There were still enough people packed onto that platform that nobody was paying much attention to anyone else. Everyone in their own world, earbuds in, eyes on their phones, just waiting for the train. Talia Whitmore was 22. She was a junior at a city university studying communications, and she'd just wrapped up an evening lecture that ran a little long. She was heading home, nothing unusual about it. She took this route all the time. She had her backpack on, earbuds in, phone in her hand. She was standing toward the middle of the platform, maybe 2 feet from the edge, waiting like everyone else. What she couldn't see was that 4 guys had followed her down those stairs and were already closing in. If you were online around this time, you probably heard of the knockout game, and if you hadn't, it's exactly what it sounds like, and somehow even worse. It was a trend that had been spreading across a handful of cities since around 2013. The idea was simple and genuinely awful. Pick a random stranger, usually someone alone, usually someone smaller, hit them as hard as you can from behind without warning, and film the reaction. That's it. That was the whole thing. And people were doing it for Vine, for laughs, for whatever validation comes from putting something like that online. By early 2015, it had already put people in the hospital. To the people doing it, that was apparently still funny. These 4 guys, who were all in their early 20s, all from the same neighborhood, had done this before. Not here, not on a subway platform, but they'd filmed versions of it elsewhere. That night, they'd been riding the subway looking for a target, and Talia caught their attention at the top of the stairs. They followed her down, spread out casually so they didn't look like a group, and one of them positioned himself directly behind her. The others had their phones out, angled to look like they were just scrolling. The train wasn't in the station yet. I genuinely don't think a single one of them understood what was below that platform. The designated hitter closed the gap and delivered a single punch to the back of Talia's head. Full force, no hesitation. And here's the thing about a blindside strike to the back of the skull. There's no bracing, no tensing, no preparation. Your body just goes. Talia pitched forward immediately. Her phone left her hand and she went off the platform edge. The drop to the tracks is about 4 feet. The platform erupted. People were screaming, backing away from the edge, some frozen completely. The 4 guys scattered in different directions within seconds. But here's what they didn't account for. At least 3 other people on that platform had their phones out, and 2 of them were already pointing in that direction when it happened. The whole thing was captured from multiple angles. The train came in about 40 seconds later. The operator hit the emergency brake the moment he saw people crowding the edge and screaming, but a subway train moving at speed doesn't stop on a dime. It came to a full stop well past where Talia had fallen. Transit workers reached the tracks within minutes. There was nothing to do. Talia Whitmore was pronounced dead at the scene. The medical examiner determined the cause of death as electrocution resulting in cardiac arrest. Her right arm and shoulder had made direct contact with the third rail when she landed, and at 625 volts DC, cardiac arrest was near immediate. Secondary blunt force trauma from the fall and subsequent train impact were noted as contributing factors. The examiner noted she was likely unconscious within seconds of hitting the tracks. The 4 were identified within 72 hours. Witness descriptions, platform surveillance footage, and videos recovered from their own phones, one of which had partially uploaded to Vine before he even left the station, made identification straightforward. All 4 were arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The partial Vine upload was time-stamped and matched transit logs exactly, placing them on that platform at that exact moment. They were later convicted, with the court citing the coordinated assault and resulting fall onto the tracks as the direct cause of death, and each received multi-year prison sentences. Talia's backpack was recovered on the tracks. Her phone was found on the platform where it had landed when she fell. Her last message had been sent 11 minutes before she reached that station, a text to her roommate saying she was on her way home. 11 minutes from home, that's how close Talia was when those four came down the stairs behind her. Up in Knoxville, Tennessee, somebody walks into a frat party with a jug of homemade liquor, and one guy drinks from it without asking a single question. It was September 23, 2016, Knoxville, Tennessee, a Friday night, end of September, that sweet spot in the semester where midterms haven't hit yet and everyone's still in the mood to celebrate nothing in particular. Rental property 3 blocks off campus, fits maybe 30 people comfortably, had about 50 in it that night. Music loud, kitchen crowded, people spilling out onto the back porch. Brody Weston was 21. Junior year, engineering major, worked hard during the week and let loose on weekends. Not a heavy drinker, someone who knew his limits and stuck to them. He'd been at the party about an hour when someone he barely knew showed up at the front door with an unmarked plastic jug. Peripheral figure, someone's roommate's friend, the kind of person who shows up without really being invited, walked in carrying the jug like a trophy, telling anyone who'd listen it was homemade moonshine. The real stuff. At a college party in Tennessee, that's not a red flag on its own. What made this different was how he was selling it, daring people to drink, playing up the burn, framing hesitation as weakness. He'd sampled it before bringing it and knew it tasted off, told people that was just how strong it was. What he never mentioned was that he'd never properly learned how to run a still. Brody took 2 long pulls. It burned going down, really burned. But the guy next to him said that meant it was working. A few others drank from it too, smaller amounts, cautious sips. The guy with the jug didn't drink any more himself after that. He spent the rest of the night watching other people drink it. That's the moment I would have been like, wait, why'd he stop? In hindsight, that was kind of hard to ignore. About 90 minutes later, Brody started complaining of a headache. Bad one came on fast. His friends figured he was drunk, told him to drink some water. He felt nauseous not long after, came back from the bathroom looking pale, still talking, still joking about it a little. Around midnight, he mentioned his vision felt off, blurry, hard to focus. Someone told him he'd had too much. He went to lie down around 12:30. Nobody checked on him for a while. The party kept going. A friend found him just after 2 a.m., conscious but barely, confused, not tracking, breathing shallow, skin grayish and soaked through his shirt. That's when someone finally called for help. Here's what was actually in that jug. Homemade distillation without proper equipment produces methanol alongside the ethanol you actually want, and the two are completely indistinguishable by taste or smell. No warning, no way to know. Methanol itself isn't the primary danger. The problem is what the body converts it into. Formaldehyde, then formic acid. The fact that it goes for your eyes first makes this so much more horrifying than I expected. The process takes hours, meaning by the time someone feels seriously sick, the damage has been underway for a long time. Attending staff suspected toxic alcohol ingestion almost immediately. The headache, the vision disturbance, the timeline all pointed there. Treatment involves blocking the metabolic conversion, but the damage already done couldn't be reversed. Liver and kidney values were critically abnormal within hours. A seizure during treatment placed serious stress on his heart. Brody Weston was declared brain dead approximately 31 hours after ingestion. He was 21 years old. Toxicology confirmed methanol concentration well above the lethal threshold. Cause of death was methanol poisoning, formic acid accumulation, metabolic acidosis, multi-organ failure, brain death. 2 long pulls versus a cautious sip. That's the entire margin between Brody and everyone else who drank from that jug and survived. The man with the jug was identified through party photos and witness accounts. Methanol content confirmed consistent with an improperly run still. Charged with criminally negligent homicide and reckless endangerment. Convicted on both counts, sentenced to 5 years, served 3.5. The scariest part about this one is that everyone in that room made the exact same assumption and every single one of them was wrong. Meanwhile, in Portland, Oregon, what gets me is that someone from her own cycling group had been on her bike the night before and she had no idea. It was April 8th, year 2017 in Portland, Oregon, one of those perfect early spring mornings where the air is still cold enough to see your breath, but the sun is already out and the roads are dry. The kind of morning that makes you want to be outside. A small cycling group had been meeting on Saturday mornings for about 2 years. 6 people, casual, recreational. Darcy Wren, 34 years old, a graphic designer who worked from home, had been part of this riding group since almost the beginning and used the weekend rides as the one thing that reliably cleared her head. She was a solid rider, not competitive, just consistent. She had a good bike, kept it maintained, knew what she was doing on it. One of the guys in the group, a 36-year-old named Garrett Finch, had a reputation for pulling pranks. Nothing malicious, just the kind of guy who thought it was funny to mess with people in small ways. The night before the Saturday ride, he'd gone to the open carport attached to the house where the group typically met before rides and loosened the seat post bolt on Darcy's bike. Just enough that the seat would feel slightly unstable under body weight, but not enough that anything would look wrong at a glance. His plan was simple. She'd sit down, feel the wobble, everyone would laugh, she'd tighten it up, they'd move on. 30 seconds of mild embarrassment. That was genuinely the whole plan in his head. Darcy didn't notice it standing still. She did a quick visual check the way she always did before clipping in, didn't catch it, and the group set off just after 7 a.m. The route they always took had a long downhill stretch about 20 minutes in, a residential road that dropped steadily over about half a mile. Smooth asphalt, nothing technical about it. They'd all ridden it dozens of times. Darcy had ridden it dozens of times. About 15 minutes into the ride, Darcy noticed the seat felt slightly off. Not dramatically wrong, just not quite right. She shifted her weight, adjusted her position, figured it was just how she'd clipped in. She didn't want to hold the group up, so she kept going. And somewhere across town, he had no idea what his little prank was about to turn into. They hit the top of the downhill stretch and started descending. Darcy was sitting third in the group, moving at around 25 miles per hour, which for that road on that morning was completely normal. Midway down the hill, the seat post gave way. The bolt had worked itself fully loose under the repeated pressure and movement of pedaling, and the seat dropped and twisted sideways. When your seat goes out from under you at speed on a bike, you lose your center of gravity instantly. There's no recovering from it. Your weight shifts forward, your steering goes with it, and it happens faster than you can process. Darcy's front wheel veered left. She went down hard on the asphalt, right side first, sliding across the road surface before coming to a stop against the curb. The group was on her within seconds. She was conscious, confused, asking what happened, trying to sit up. She was talking. She seemed okay. Responders arrived about 8 minutes later, and she was rushed to a trauma facility immediately. She lost consciousness in transit. She never woke up. Darcy Wren died 11 hours later. The cause of death was severe traumatic brain injury, acute subdural hematoma resulting from the head impact with the curb edge during the slide. The helmet had absorbed the initial impact from the fall itself, but the secondary strike against the raised concrete curb edge was what did the damage. The bike was examined as part of the investigation. The seat post bolt was confirmed as deliberately loosened. Thread wear pattern inconsistent with normal use, manually backed out. Garrett came forward 2 days later and admitted to it. Text messages from the night before referencing the prank were entered as primary evidence alongside the bike report and witness accounts from the other 4 group members. Criminally negligent homicide in Oregon is a Class B felony. Garrett was convicted and sentenced to 6 years. He served 4. 2 years in the same cycling group, and it was someone she trusted who put her down. Up next is in Athens, Georgia. And what I find wild about this last one is that the thing that killed him was sitting in someone's kitchen spice rack. It was October 28, 2017. Athens, Georgia, a college town on a Saturday night, Halloween weekend, which means everyone was already a little more wound up than usual. Off-campus rental, maybe 30 people packed into a space that comfortably fit half that. Loud, crowded conversations happening in shouts. Ronan Strand was the kind of guy who got along with everyone and never really said no to anything. 20 years old, sophomore, communications major. He'd been at the party a couple of hours with 6 friends he'd known since freshman year. Just another Saturday night for him. One of them was a guy named Callum. He had come to the party with something already in mind. He'd read about the nutmeg high weeks earlier, thought it was funny, and had been waiting for the right night. He brought a container of ground nutmeg in his jacket pocket. Large dose, legal, supposed to cause hallucinations. He thought it would make for a good story. He didn't look much further into it than that. He brought it up around 11 p.m., casual, like it just occurred to him. Pulled out the container, explained the concept, made it sound like something people did. He aimed it at Ronan specifically. Easygoing, always up for something. The last person in the group to back down in front of people. It's obvious Ronan was the easiest target in the room, and Callum knew it. By the time it became a dare, it already had an audience. Ronan grabbed the container, tipped a heaping amount into his palm, somewhere around 2 to 3 tablespoons, and washed it down with whatever was in his cup. Everyone laughed. Callum filmed it. They moved on. What most people don't know is what nutmeg actually does at that dose. The active compound is myristicin, and at high enough concentrations, it triggers a toxic syndrome, rapid heart rate, severe nausea, disorientation, hyperthermia, and in serious cases, seizures and organ stress. Onset takes 1 to 3 hours, which is exactly why nobody made the connection when Ronan started feeling off later that night. His friends figured he was drunk. He figured he was drunk. He sat down, drank some water, tried to shake it off. He vomited twice, came back from the bathroom pale and disoriented, still talking, still responding, but something was clearly not right. His friends put him in a bedroom to sleep it off. The nutmeg was hours ago. Everyone had moved on. A friend checked on him around 1 a.m., sweating heavily, breathing fast, skin flushed and hot to the touch, still responsive but barely making sense. Another 30 minutes passed before anyone called for help. Genuine uncertainty about whether this was just alcohol or something worse. Responders arrived 11 minutes after the call. By the time he reached a medical facility, Ronan was in and out of consciousness. Heart rate dangerously elevated, temperature at 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Liver values already abnormal on initial blood work. The alcohol already in his system had compounded the toxic response. Myristicin metabolism is processed through the same hepatic pathways as alcohol, placing additional strain on the liver simultaneously. A seizure occurred during treatment. His heart couldn't sustain the combined stress of the hyperthermia, the seizure activity, and the organ strain. Ronan Strand died approximately 9 hours after arriving at the facility. He was 20 years old. Cause of death was acute nutmeg toxicity, myristicin-induced hyperthermia, seizure activity, and cardiac arrest secondary to multi-organ stress. Toxicology confirmed myristicin concentration consistent with the ingested amount. The combination with alcohol was noted as a significant contributing factor, ruled accidental. No charges were filed against anyone. Callum had planned the whole thing, picked the target, brought the nutmeg, and filmed it. None of that was enough to constitute a criminal act under Georgia law. There was no statute directly applicable to providing a legal substance that resulted in unintended death without demonstrated knowledge of lethal risk. The video of Ronan laughing as he washed it down was recovered from Callum's phone during the investigation. He was interviewed twice. He was never charged.